Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to do something actually pretty fascinating. We are cutting straight through thousands of years of overwhelming herbal recipes and intensely complex jargon to reveal the elegant, highly logical operating system of the female body. If you've ever looked at traditional medicine and thought it was just some random collection of ancient remedies, well, prepare to have your mind changed. We are looking at a highly structured, systemic framework. If you've ever felt like traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM, is just this chaotic, tangled forest of mysterious symptoms, trust me, you are definitely not alone. I mean, you get a diagnosis, and it sounds like half weather report, half ancient poetry, right? But today, we are fixing that. We're going to distill this massive knowledge base down into a beautifully minimalist, purely logical framework, one that actually makes total sense, even if you're coming at it with a strictly modern scientific mindset. So here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll find that minimalist logic. Then, we'll map out the core organs and meridians. Third, we'll look at the 5 pathologies of imbalance. Fourth, we'll dive into the mind-body holistic view. And finally, we'll trace the dynamic evolution of life. All right, let's jump right into part 1, finding the minimalist logic. Okay, so think about it. Every single system needs a baseline power source, right? Well, according to the classic medical texts, women are rooted in blood. It is the absolute baseline fuel for literally everything we're about to talk about today. Menstruation, the crazy intricate process of pregnancy, childbirth, lactation, none of these can happen without this essential fuel. It's really step 1 for understanding how this whole biological machine actually runs. Moving right along to part 2, core organs and meridians. Now, what is super fascinating here is how perfectly these ancient concepts map directly onto a modern systems engineering framework. Seriously, think of the body like a complex machine. In the system, the kidney acts as your main engine, storing your core biological essence. Then you've got Tiangui, which is basically your biological startup command, a reproductive signal. The Chengrin are your transmission pipes, moving all that fuel around. And finally, the uterus is your terminal execution unit. That's where the actual magic of menstruation or pregnancy happens. You can just see the pure underlying logic here, right? It's a precise chain reaction. First, if your engine has enough fuel, it generates power. Second, that power triggers the startup command. Third, the transmission pipes open up. And fourth, because those first 3 steps worked perfectly, the terminal execution unit fires without a hitch. So if there's ever a glitch, say a missed period or fertility struggles, it literally just means there is a breakdown in one of these 4 specific links. It's really that straightforward. But to keep that core transmission system humming along, you need a background support network. Specifically, 3 major organs working in absolute synergy. First up is the spleen. Think of this as your factory, taking in food and water and churning out blood and energy. Next is the liver, which acts like a router. It stores the blood and manages the flow, but it's heavily influenced by your emotions. And we all know what happens when a router gets overwhelmed, right? The whole network crashes. Finally, we loop back to the kidney, your main battery, providing that deep reproductive power. Keep these 3 happy and coordinated, and the whole system thrives. Which brings us to part 3, the 5 pathologies of imbalance. So here is the crucial takeaway. Virtually every single gynecological disease can actually be simplified into one of 5 basic system errors. Check this out. If you have a deficiency, your system is just out of gas, lacking fuel, which leads to things like missing periods or infertility. Stasis means the flow is completely blocked, causing pain or masses. Cold is literally like having frozen pipes. It slows everything down and makes cycles late and painful. On the flip side, heat means the system is overheating, pushing things way too fast, like early periods. And lastly, dampness. Think of that as system sludge creating gunky blockages, which we often see in conditions like PCOS. When you really look at it this way, you realize there are no random, spooky mysteries going on here. A super complex issue, take modern stress-induced infertility, for example, is honestly just a logical, predictable combination of these basic glitches. Maybe you've got a bit of deficiency mixed up with some stasis. The beauty is, once you identify your specific combo of glitches, you know exactly how to troubleshoot the whole system. Let's zoom out a bit for part 4, the mind-body holistic view. This brilliantly illustrates the grand secret tucked away in these classic texts. A woman's health is ruled by a constant, delicate dance between the mind and the body. The mind, or Sing, is all about spirit, consciousness, and emotions. It kind of floats above, representing your mental load and daily stress. The body, on the other hand, Ming, is your tangible essence, your physical form, your reproductive capacity. It sinks below and rules the actual physical act of living. So your baseline health? It's basically a continuous 24/7 negotiation between your mental software and your physical hardware. So, how exactly do the mind and body talk to each other? Well, they use the liver. The liver is the ultimate hub here. It has this highly unique double-duty job. It simultaneously stores your physical blood, that's the body side, and regulates your mental and emotional stress, the mind side. This is precisely why a crazy stressful week at work can immediately wreck your physical cycle. The liver is acting as the control valve between your ethereal mind and your physical body. When the mind overloads the router, the physical system gets completely throttled. And that leads us perfectly into part 5, the dynamic evolution of life. Ancient texts actually map this out in classic 7-year life cycles, showing exactly how the demands on our mind and the capacity of our body shift over a lifetime. It's truly fascinating. In childhood, the body is still booting up, but the mind is pure and unburdened. Hit puberty, and the physical body roars to life, making the mind super restless. By youth, your physical body is at its absolute peak, but hey, the mind starts taking on real societal stress. Fast forward to middle age, the body naturally starts to decline right as the mind becomes totally overloaded. And finally, in old age, the body enters a quiet storage phase, letting the mind finally peacefully clear. But looking at that timeline reveals what we like to call the modern trap. See, in our youth phase, basically our 20s and early 30s, our physical body should be at peak performance. But today, we've got intense career pressures, delayed timelines, and just everyday burnout. It creates this toxic scenario where a wildly stressed mind aggressively drains the physical body. It's like having dozens of heavy background apps open on your phone. That heavy mental load acts like a virus, just draining the physical battery. And man, that trap sets us up for a massive collision in middle age. Think about it. The physical body begins its natural decline. Reproductive energy drops, the hardware slows down. But at the exact same time, the middle-aged mind is hitting peak stress. You're juggling career peaks, family demands, massive emotional burdens. The software is running on maximum overdrive while the battery is literally dying. This massive gap, this scissor difference, perfectly explains the root logic behind intense menopausal symptoms like hot flashes and wild emotional swings. It just makes so much sense. So let's bring it all together for the ultimate synthesis. There's this incredible summary from the source material that perfectly wraps up the physical mechanics we've just decoded. It gives us a unified, elegant theory. You've got your root battery, your routing net, your manufacturing source, your foundational fuel, your transmission pathways, and the 5 distinct ways it can glitch. Honestly, it is a complete, logically sound engineering schematic for female physiology. But hey, it's not just cold mechanics. This elevates everything from a purely physical system to a truly beautiful, holistic view of wellness. Your physical life gracefully manifests through that root engine, sure, but your spirit and your mental load? They filter through the hub of the liver. You just can't treat one without acknowledging the other, because a woman's entire lifespan is simply this continuous ebb and flow, a constant, lifelong negotiation between mind and body. As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to take a quick second to reflect on your own operating system. Where are you on that lifespan timeline right now? Are you caught in that modern trap where your mental software is just draining your physical hardware dry? Think about how you might use this beautifully minimalist logic to identify your own system glitches, reboot your router, and finally restore your internal balance. Because, as we've seen today, once you actually understand the logic, true health really isn't a mystery anymore. So what's your first step going to be?